Oh, you guys are here today. Well, I'm just working on my dagger, adding some paint, but there's one thing I wanted to go over. There was this YouTuber, he was talking about different Evil Dead facts. He's going through 10 different facts. And in the comments, I might have been a little bit abrasive, and I do apologize for that. But there's one question, why I was abrasive, is Jason the Deadite? And he said no. Now, if you know, Jason Goes to Hell, the director talks about it is canon to the films. Now, a lot of people say that he was a Deadite only in that film. Now, I am here to prove that Jason was a Deadite from day one. The Paramount Pictures films. I'm not going to bring up anything of Jason Goes to Hell. I'm not going to bring up anything New Line Cinema. I'm going to talk about strictly the Paramount Pictures films. Why? It's very important that I bring this up and I prove it positive, just because I'm tired of arguing with people that Jason's a Deadite, and it is very factual that he is. If you really pay attention, and I'll bring up a lot of facts, prove my point, and let me not whip around this paint. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to define what is a Deadite. A Deadite, the term Deadite came from 1300 AD. It was at the end of Evil Dead 2. That's where the term came from. So what is the definition of a Deadite? Now, we know the term came from 1300 AD. With that being said, in the book, in every passage that Raymond Noby recorded, everything that he said, they're demons. They're just demons. Deadites are demons. There's different scales of demons. There's low-end demons. There's high-end demons. You see that from Evil Dead 1 to Army of Darkness to 2013, now to Evil Dead Rise. You'll notice specific demons are listed in the books of the dead as well. So, with specific ones listed, there's powerful ones, there's less powerful ones. Ash vs. Evil Dead showed that with Elegos, especially. You had Baal as well. So we're going to really break that down. So the thing we need to remember, the term Deadite was what the people in 1300 AD called demons. So they're all demons. So if I mention Deadite at all, just remember, they're demons. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the first film. I'm going to skip a lot of that because we know it was Pamela. Jason really wasn't in there. But I will reference back to that in just a little bit. Let's cut to part 2. Now in part 2, Jason comes back. Let's go right to the end scene. Now I'm going to bring up things that are medically impossible to survive, and also him coming back in certain situations, and other things that will reflect Evil Dead, Deadite behavior. He got a machete in his neck. Now this is the medical part I'm talking about. He got it right here. This is a main artery. Anything towards your heart, your arm. If somebody suffered from a heart attack, the symptoms are, and a stroke is, your arms hurting, things like that. That main artery, you get that cut. If you don't have medical assistance within literally minutes, you can bleed out and die immediately. We know he was down and out, he was done, but we know at the end he should have been dead because of that. Medically, him just laying there and bleeding out, dead. He's a normal person, he's dead. But of course, what happens? We have a part 3. So what did we just witness here? Again, he was hung. He fell that far. He should have broke his neck. No, he was fine. Just pulled himself off of that son of a bitch. Nah, he was good. He was fine. And then after that, hit in the head with an axe. Okay, we assume he's dead because it shows him at the end still laying there. But of course, going back to part 1, what I was mentioning earlier, with Deadites fucking with people, here is a reason why he is Deadite. A lot of people said Deadites screw with people, and Jason doesn't screw with people.
miss you too. I need a hug. Let's get wet.
As we just saw, he is back in the cabin, chasing after her. Pamela comes out of the water, grabs her, but we know that didn't really happen. Also, same thing happened at the end of part 1. Also, at the end of part 2, when Jason jumps through the window. That's screwing with people, because it didn't really happen. Now, you could say it was all in their mind, all in their brain, but why is it a constant theme from 1, 2, and 3? Jason was screwing with him. He's not fully dead. He's a deadite. That is why he simply shows the characteristic of a deadite. He was screwing with him. He couldn't physically do it, so what did he do? Like any evil force in Evil Dead that can't get to their victim, they screw with them. The same thing they did with Ash, especially in Evil Dead 2. Well, let's go to part 4. Now what we have is Corey Feldman playing a young character, Tommy Jarvis. And what does he do? Makes him sympathetic. Shaves his head, young Donatello right there, he shaved his head and stuff. Which, when did that happen in Evil Dead? To where certain emotions and reflections of emotion, of love and sorrow, when can that bring somebody back? Did that ever happen in Evil Dead? Yes! Evil Dead 2! Ash came back from being a deadite. Brought him back. Okay? It didn't bring Jason back. But what it really reflects is this Evil Dead scene. Right there in Evil Dead 2. Right there when possessed Henrietta was fighting Ash and she heard the lullaby, she reflected back on those emotions, which distracted her so Ash could do the kill shot to take care of Henrietta, get her out of the picture. So that is exactly the same thing that Jason did in part 4. So another thing to really look at of characteristics of a deadite, right there. And I could go over all the battle damage he's gone through, all the crazy shit. But I'm not going to go through all of that because you can say, not a single man can go through that stuff. But of course, we know a certain man can in the Jason trilogy, Friday 13th, whatever you want to call it. We'll call it the Friday 13th because I don't like to call it the Jason trilogy because of this masterpiece.
Part motherfucking 5.
Part 5. We're not going to talk a lot about it, we're just going to talk a little bit about it, just because I love part 5, and I really think that if they would have taken that, moved the story along for a part 6, Tommy Jarvis is there, killing people, and then bring Jason in somehow in a better way, then I think we wouldn't have such lackluster turds as Jason on a boat. But it didn't happen because the fans were pissed that it wasn't Jason, so they brought Jason back, of course, in part 6. But the thing you have to realize is this. If you brought Jason back and all of a sudden he's in part 6, he's just, he's the undead, basically. Why would later a director, writer say he's a deadite to make everything make sense? So when you really think about it, it's the fan base you can blame for wanting to have Jason back that fast to proceed into him being called a deadite. So, the only people to blame for that is the fan base. If you would have just been happy with part 5, you could have moved into something cool when Jason comes back. It would have made a lot more sense, better stories. But people don't like part 5 because it wasn't Jason. And to that I say, you stink, because part 5 is a great film. It is way better than part 7 and part 8. I think those absolutely stink. Part 6. What happened in part 6? He was resurrected out of his grave. He was in his grave, he was dead. Now, how was he resurrected?
I think I have bugs on my face.
Lightning struck, that spear thing he stabbed him with, a piece of rebar or whatever, and he came back from the grave. And I'm sure a lot of you are going, Brett, how can you prove that that's connected to Evil Dead? He just came back from the dead. That never happened in the Evil Dead series. Actually, it did. There was a little film called Army of Darkness that had a character called Evil Ash, who was chopped up and thrown into a grave, and I don't know. He came back because, a book was removed from the cradle in the grave that you remember from Army of Darkness, but that's not what resurrected him. What happened was this. Evil Ash was resurrected, lightning struck his grave, he came back. Who else in movie history did that happen to? Maybe a character called Jason fucking Voorhees. Yes, the same exact thing. They could be similar demons, we don't know. Because deadites and demons, one and the same, but different levels of them. Kind of shows a pattern here that he is, in fact, a deadite. Now let's talk about 7. We know at the end of part 6, he was in the water. Him drowning wasn't a thing. It was the motorboat hitting him in the face. That's how he died. Kind of chopped his face up. But we know at the beginning of part 7, his face looks pretty good. You got telekinesis girl brings him back, so you can say he's undead. So I'm not gonna really embellish too much because that movie is a stinker. I do not like that movie. And at the end, you think he was blown up. No, he wasn't blown up. And then all of a sudden, he's back in the water, drowned again. Apparently, drowning a second time actually makes him drown. What? We're not going to talk a lot about that because you can say now he's undead. So let's go to Jason on a Boat, part 8. Now let's move on to the end. You could say, he came back. He's undead now. It really doesn't fucking matter. So let's go to the end. So let's talk about the end of part 8. What happens at the end of part 8? Well, we're not going to look at the Muppet face thing because that was stupid. Sewage hits him, and then all of a sudden pulls an Evil Dead 1 to where the deadite body is rotting away. It's going away. Lightning starts striking outside. It hits all these buildings and stuff and the Statue of Liberty, and it's a signal of something being released, right? Right? It's signaling more than just him turning that stupid kid in underwear. You know what I'm saying? So he turns in that stupid kid in underwear, and that's it. I had to throw this in there. They left the stupid kid in his underwear just in the sewer, but that fucking dog. Ha ha ha! We found our dog! Fuck this movie. And then all of a sudden, you're just wondering, well, Brett, how come he can come back in New Line Cinema? Well, let's just talk about that. That will also reflect back to part 1. A lot of people ask me, well, if he is all of a sudden, this big looming demon guy, how could he age that quick? Well, I'm not going to show a clip of Ash vs. Evil Dead because I got flagged for it one day. If you remember in season 3, with Brandy, remember there was a baby clone Ash. It was an evil Ash. How fast did he grow up? Within a couple days. Within a couple days. Maybe a week. That's how fast. So that shows he's a deadite because he grew up that fast, which is in the Book of the Dead. To make that happen, it's shown in Ash vs. Evil Dead. And then also, you can say, well, how come he comes back in New Line Cinema? Well, that's just kind of, I don't want to theorize crap that can't reflect into it, but you could take that same thing into account, him becoming a deadite again. Who knows? There's a lot of questions that aren't answered between the two different companies, Paramount, and then you have New Line Cinema. So we're not going to try to pull those two together because I want to leave New Line Cinema out and a lot of theories out. So the only real theory that doesn't reflect is how he became older, but it makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it? If he is a deadite, he shows those same exact patterns as a deadite. So, with that being said, Jason is a deadite. And again, if you don't want to believe me, talk to anybody who's ever watched the Blu-ray edition of the whole big box set, anything about Jason Goes to Hell, interviews with the writer-director of Jason Goes to Hell, how he got the book, got the blessing from Sam Raimi, got the blessing from the original creator of Jason, that he is in fact a deadite. So it is canon, 100%. Whatever you want to think other than that is fan fiction. Everything else means nothing. So I know this isn't popular with fans of Jason at all, because they want to keep him separate. They want to think he's just so much better. Nope, he's not. That just means Ash could kick his ass, and that is a fact. So, until next time, you guys stay groovy.